Now, out of those major exam topics, there are items, issues underneath all of these major categories which deserve special attention based on the questions that you're likely to see on the exam. Under definitions and terminology, of course, you need to know currency pairs, exchange rates, crosses, cross rates. This is just basic forex definitional items. Along with American and European terms, I can guarantee you that you're going to see at least a couple or more questions which will use American terms within the question. So you should be well prepared for that. Moving on to forex trading calculations, you're going to see a lot of profit and loss calculations, some cross-rate transactions, a couple of questions potentially on pip values. I remember one specifically on the exam, and then of course effect of leverage in trading forex. All of these can kind of be combined also into multi-part questions that can become very difficult. With the risks associated with forex trading, all of the risks listed are very straightforward. The most important obviously is credit risk, but there's also country risk, exchange rate risk, interest rate risk, and all of these risks are focused kind of on different parts, but are also very interrelated. So you may see questions that will test you on 2 or 3 of these risks within one single question. Moving on to the forex markets, you've got balance of payments, balance of trade, current account, capital account. These are items where you're definitely going to see at least 1, maybe 2 questions on those items, so you should know them very well. Forex clearing, obviously, and other sorts of basically forex fundamental, understanding how fundamental factors move the forex markets with regard to central bank activities, elasticity of exchange rates, the Fisher effect, the international Fisher effect, and purchasing power parity. I definitely saw at least one question on all of the above, and so you should be well prepared for these specific items along with the other list that the NFA, the other items on the list that the NFA has promulgated. With regard to the forex regulatory requirements, we've got some fairly straightforward items for you to study. These items are very basic, but are important because there will be these questions. There are a number of interpretive notices, some rules that you will need to know, along with the promotional material rules and the security deposit rules. I had questions on all of these items, so it's likely that you would see questions related to these items as well. So I did take the exam, and I passed the exam. My scores are up there. I did fairly well on most of the items, except for the concepts and theories, and I did very well on the forex regulatory requirements for a total of 30 out of 40, 75%. Again, the passing score would be at 28 or 70%, and it took me 42 minutes to complete the exam. I thought that the exam was very calculation heavy, so you have to be very prepared to use a calculator on the exam. There's probably going to be approximately 5 questions where you're going to be using the calculator, and as always be prepared to not spend too much time with the calculator or on any single question. I think that on one question I couldn't find the answer, and out of the choices given, and I ended up spending about 10 minutes on one problem, which is way too long to spend on any one problem on the exam. If after a certain amount of time you can't figure out the answer, then mark an answer and move on, and potentially come back to it at the very end if there's time available. That kind of brings me into a note on pacing through the exam. All of these FINRA exams or FINRA-sponsored exams are very similar. I've taken, I think, 5 or 6 of these exams now, and they all kind of have the same pattern where the very beginning is going to be easy. It's going to get progressively harder during the middle, and then there will be probably a couple of exam questions in there that are just very, very difficult. And then at the very end, you're going to get a lot of easy questions again. So just be aware of this common technique used in all of the FINRA exams, is that it's going to start off easy, it's going to get tough, very tough in the middle, and then it's going to end easy. So if you get kind of stuck in those middle questions, then just know that this is how that's exactly where they put the toughest questions. So just be prepared for that. Some of my other thoughts, definitely understand shorting currency pairs. There were a couple of questions on that I wasn't quite as prepared for, because I didn't do too many questions dealing with shorting currency pairs, and it wasn't a focus of my studies. So I would have focused on those more. Current account, capital account, balance of trade, and balance of payments. These are concepts that are going to be tested. There's probably going to be at least 2 questions on the exam devoted to these issues. So be prepared to answer questions on these items. The regulatory questions were pretty straightforward. There were a lot of true-false in those regulatory questions, so for the most part, you should just understand what the basic concepts are, and you should do pretty fine on the regulatory section. I've also gone into more detail with my thoughts on the exam, and I've written a piece on the exam and my thoughts, how I prepared for it, how I would prepare for it in the future, knowing what I know now. And you can access that on my other website, hedgefundlawblog.com. And if you have any other questions too, always feel free to send me an email.